Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Coming up in Warzone here in the relatively near future, we are going to see one of the final major meta updates, one of the final major seasonal weapon updates. If not the final one, depends on how exactly Season 6 Reloaded goes, since that's going to take place a whole lot closer to the full-on launch of Black Ops 6 in late October. But with this, the devs have somewhat ambiguously described what to expect in our final, Season 6 significant meta update. And it's going to be one, currently as we know it, that is a major game changer based on the info that has been shared to us by the devs. And I wanted to dive a little bit more into this final meta update, what to expect with it across the board, and how it'll impact the upcoming year of Warzone with Black Ops 6 and everything going on there. So the quote that we got from the devs back prior to the Season 5 launch in our dev call with them was that going into Season 6 or sometime around that, they plan on doing a more universal-like meta update to make all weapons more competitive. This would insinuate we're going to see a lot of buffs to some of those underwhelming weapons to make them more competitive with some of the top tier better options we currently have, and we'd see less nerfs to those better options that we've got in the game right now. So an update that really would balance the meta a lot more, make it a lot more diverse, and that's always objectively a very good thing. So when should we expect this? Like I said, they said going into Season 6 or headed into Season 6, we have an upcoming weapons update planned. So this could happen in theory on any given random patch note update. Now they usually do these on Tuesdays or Wednesdays, but the most likely time scenario for this, the most likely launch for this is probably going to be the Season 6 update, since major seasonal updates being the seasonal launches and then also the reloaded or the mid-season updates contain the most weapon updates and the most weapon changes the vast majority of the time, right? Occasionally we'll have that one-off surprise update that drops that changes a bunch of different weapons, but that's pretty rare, pretty few and far between, especially at the end of a game's life cycle. It's probably going to be a much more planned and coordinated weapon update and rollout there, coinciding with a significant seasonal update or a significant title update, right? So I personally would expect this to take place right around that Season 6 launch, if not right alongside the launch of Season 6 with all the patch notes that go live that day. And if you're wondering, Season 6 currently should be scheduled for the 18th of September. So we've got this coming up pretty quickly. So with this meta update, as mentioned, a lot should be changing, especially on the underwhelming and less competitive side of things. A lot of these weapons in the game right now, as we know, we've got 100+ weapons between MW2 and MW3. I think we might be approaching 140, 150 off the top of my head. But at the top of the meta, the absolute meta, it's usually only a weapon pool of maybe 5 to 7 guns max. And if you're talking the absolute number one meta, usually that's anywhere between 1, 2, or 3 weapons per half season, sometimes per full season, which leads to a very stale meta. Despite the fact that we've got a lot of really fun builds in this game, a lot of really fun weapons to use, most of them just are not practical. Sure, you can use them, you can mess around with them, you might get some kills here and there, but if you run into the absolute meta, you're probably going to be in the gulag or you're probably going to be spectating. So it leads to a meta that gets very stale and very monotonous very quickly every single season. But luckily, we've actually got some info and some details, some indication of what to expect and what will be changing with this final major meta update. And as we go into all the details here, if you are new to the channel, you want to guarantee you are always up to date with everything going on in COD, including the latest meta updates and all the weapon changes. I got you covered on a daily basis, so feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. And if you enjoyed this video, a like rating is always really appreciated. Much love as always to everyone who takes the time to do so. Y'all have been super supportive of all the content lately, so I truly do appreciate it. But one of the biggest changes coming with this global meta update is the one-shot sniper update. We've talked about this a little bit in the past when this info was first revealed to us. We made a video discussing some of this, and basically what they said is that a lot of the MW2 snipers that require ammo to be one-shots, so things like the MCPR or the Imperium or whatever, these bolt-action MW2 snipers that you have to run explosive ammo on, they're going to take away the requirement of needing explosive ammo to one-shot. So you could build out for, max velocity on these snipers and actually have a one-shot knock or a one-shot headshot sniper, similar to how some of the snipers like the Cat or the Moors perform from MW3, for instance, where you could one shot at 60 meters or you could one shot at 260 meters, right? So that in and of itself would be a huge update for diversity and really shake up the long range meta, and particularly the sniper meta as well. I think this is a long overdue update. Quite frankly, this is a change that probably needed to happen back when one-shot snipers were fully reintroduced with the MW3 integration, and the Cat was an infinite one-shot sniper, then the Moors was an infinite one-shot sniper. Obviously, we've also got like the Stalker and the Car, which are limited one-shots, but really, I feel like this is a change that needed to happen some time ago. It's a bummer it's happening so late into the content year for MW3, but I'll talk a little bit about what to expect in terms of competition with Black Ops 6 here in just a moment. Another big element, though, arguably the largest element of this global meta update, and what's likely going to again be the final meta update, is the buffs across the board to those less competitive options. So this means they're likely going to target a lot of MW2 weapons. Obviously, this past year, the metas, season after season, have been dominated by Modern Warfare 3 weapons. We would occasionally have like one decent MW2 gun, and then it would get nerfed like a week later, right? Like, we really haven't had many MW2 metas throughout the year. So they're largely not competitive. They're largely underwhelming. I would expect a lot of buffs to those weapons to bring up their damage values, ideally their handling values, so they're faster, they're more aggressive, their control properties as well, so they're easier to use. There's less idle sway, visual recoil, visual smoke, everything going on with those. Also, though, we do have some underwhelming MW3 guns. Obviously, we've got a lot of them now because of all the seasonal updates, but still only a select, 10, 15 are in that more competitive, side of the meta. There's still a lot that are underutilized and just underperform when going against some of those top options. So I would say a lot of the MW2 guns should be expected to be changed here and buffed in some capacity, and then quite a few MW3 guns as well. But thanks to the Black Ops 6 beta and the updates to the Black Ops 6 gunsmith, I'm actually now wondering, and keep in mind this is simply me theorizing, me speculating, they didn't say anything about this specifically other than attachments take a long time to adjust, especially MW2 attachments, just because they're not as high level of a priority as just basic general weapon tuning is, and then also adding new weapons to the game is, so they kind of are an afterthought, unfortunately, just due to time constraints. But the attachments in the game right now are drastically different to Black Ops 6 attachments. Obviously, now that we've gone through and played the beta and we've seen the breakdown of the general gunsmith, Black Ops 6 setups have very minimal cons. The majority of the weapon attachments in Black Ops 6 exclusively focus on adding pros to your weapon and not having any cons. There are a few one-off cons here and there on certain attachments, but the majority of the options are just simply pros that make your weapon better and they don't hurt your recoil or your ADS or whatever else, right? On the contrary, MW3 and MW2 is all about trade-offs. You can get more range, but it's going to slow you down. You can get more control, but it's going to slow you down. You can get super speedy and, super quick and agile, but it's going to hurt your control. So there's trade-offs. There's pros and cons to your setups. Well, part of me now wonders if they're going to go through with a lot of these overhaul updates and maybe not change the weapons as much. Like, I'm sure we'll still get buffs to some damage profiles and some ranges and whatnot, but also just go through and really limit the cons on a lot of the attachments that we've got in the game. We have 100 optics, 4 of them are decent. We have a gazillion underbarrels and muzzles and suppressors and compensators, but like 6 of them get used because the pros are better than the cons and they outweigh the cons, right? So that would be a huge update in and of itself if they just went through and made it so that a lot of the MW2 and MW3 weapons mainly featured attachment pros and not attachment cons. That directly makes the weapons so much better and you could optimize things so much more, and it also promotes more diversity in your builds. It's not just a copy and paste of, oh, you got to use the quartermaster suppressor and you've got to use the paracord underbarrel. No, you could use 3 or 4 or 5 different suppressors and 6 or 7 different compensators and then a bunch of different underbarrels depending on if you want mobility or stability or control or whatever, right? That would be huge if they do try and sort of mirror the Black Ops 6 system there. Again, that's not guaranteed. That's just me speculating, hey, maybe they're going to try and push for that, because the reason that they're doing this, the final meta update, and the reason I've referred to it as such is that really with Season 6 and potentially Season 6 Reloaded, again, just with the timing, we're going to have to wait and see, but they're not going to make a bunch of changes to weapons or really Warzone in general when Black Ops 6 becomes the main focus on October 25th. For that month and a half or so leading up to Season 1 with the integration, Warzone does kind of take the back seat to multiplayer, and it's not going to see a bunch of weapon updates and meta changes and bug fixes and really even content updates, honestly. Black Ops 6 is getting all of that. And then the integration takes place, and all of the Black Ops 6 weapons and operators and movements comes to Warzone. And when that happens, integrations usually are somewhat problematic, buggy, glitchy. They want to have their focus on balancing all the new elements of Warzone that Black Ops 6 is introducing. They don't want to stack more onto their plate and say, okay, now we have to balance a bunch of Black Ops 6 weapons and fix these glitches. Oh, and now we've got to buff and nerf a lot of MW2 and MW3 guns. No, they can go in and sort of get out ahead of that and update MW3 and MW2 weapons now so that when the integration takes place, they can focus more just on the Black Ops 6 content and have less to worry about there. So it's sort of a preparation meta update, if you will, and then also just one of the last large ones we're going to see for some time until we truly get into the Black Ops 6 content year and then start to have those more consistent, week to week or every other week updates that adjust things, in more detail there. So Season 6 is going to be an interesting one, and the way that the meta evolves over the course of the next month or two is going to be very fun to see. Of course, I'll keep you covered with everything you need to know about the best weapons, when things are changing, what's changing, everything like that. So make sure you are subscribed with those noties turned on to stay up to date. And if you enjoyed this video, a like rating on your way out would be much appreciated. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.